For God is king of everything.
Part 1 with my conversation with the wonderful Carolyn McDonald.
How
are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
Great. I'm great. It's so nice to see you. It's
Nice
been
to
so
see
long. Oh my God. I feel
you.
like we're all grown up now.
Mom, I was like, look how young I look.
Yes, you were a baby.
I was a baby. I actually turned 21. I turned 21 on the set of Freedom Song.
Wow.
I
Right
did. You look
on.
fabulous.
Thank you so much. I'm blessed. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Good. Good. I'm so glad that you're doing this for me. It's really awesome. So thank you.
That's great. You know, I'm a Carolina girl too. You know, I'm from North
So
Carolina.
are you?
Yeah, I'm from Fayetteville, outside Fayetteville. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, I'm a North Carolina girl too.
So is that what compelled y'all to film in Wilmington?
No, actually, it was because of Wilmington is a great production port. At the time, it was very, very big. It was the Atlanta of the time. You know,
Yeah.
there were like 4 films probably, and Dawson's Creek was there,
Right.
and there was all kinds of shows that were coming in and out of there at that time.
Yeah, I would talk to people. I said it's funny because people that were in the city could recognize like who people were that were doing films. So you would be at restaurants and they're like, okay, well, what film are you doing? It was like, oh no,
Yes, that's right, exactly. Oh no, I'm on this film. I'm on Dawson's Creek. I'm on this. What are you doing down? I didn't know you were down here. Yeah.
Like you guys are locals. Like you gotta be, But I'm from Cleveland. I was going to school at Shaw. Got the part of Freedom Song, so I was kind of local, and Wilmington is now like this family spot. Like we go every year. Like,
that's great. I love Wilmington. I wish I was closer. In fact, when I was down there, I would drive to Fayetteville. My dad came down to the set. My cousins came down to the set. And it was only like an hour and a half drive. So I went up to my dad's house. I'd be more than happy to.
It's hilarious because it'll be what 22 years this year actually.
Yeah.
Since we've done Freedom Song.
1999. So yeah, it was in the summer of 99.
Summer of 99. And I realized like everybody that I've worked with since then, nobody really knows about this. So what happens is that people are watching TV and they're like, is that somebody will call and say, were you in a movie? And I was like, oh yeah, that, So I thought it would be really great to just kind of share that with my audiences. Now that it's been so much time that has passed, since I've done it, but then too, just the fact that you are still doing this, like, because this industry is hard. And
it's very hard. It's very, very difficult. And it's a different industry. It's not the same industry that when we made Freedom Song. It's just not. People are making films, but it's not the same industry.
I think, okay, so if you could talk a little bit like to that, because it is a totally different industry since Freedom Song.
Wow, God, we only have an hour, but it's business. Let's start at the top. I mean, it starts with conglomerates buying, at the time, I think Time Warner owned TNT and Warner Brothers. There was only HBO, and there was no streaming. I mean, it was, cable and network and DVDs and still a little bit of VHS. And there's territories where things were sold in America and North America and foreign. Now with streaming, Netflix is everywhere at the same time. Peacock is everywhere at the same time. Hulu is everywhere at the same time. And there's just constant, flow of content. There's many, many more channels than there were then. And we thought there were a lot of channels then for cable, but there's the cable plus all these streamers that are now. And so there's a constant need for content. And at the same time, it's just, I don't know. I was just having this conversation about how it's just not as special. I don't want to say that in a discouraging way.
Oh, I get it.
Meaning that, theatrical, like I teach at New York Film Academy, and I had a student a couple of semesters ago that, when we were really in the pandemic, and there were just things were starting to open up. And she says, it's gotta be mask worthy for me to
Yeah.
leave the house.
Yeah.
You know, the film, I've got to love it enough. It's got to be mask worthy for me to want to go into a theater. And so you don't really have the option of just walking in a theater,
No.
you know, more like everything is going to streaming. And I always say too to my clients and students, and, you know, because I also consult filmmakers, the good news is you got a film on Netflix, and the bad news is you got a film on Netflix, because
Yeah.
speaking to the back in the day with, you know, TNT, you know, you had, you know, runs, and you got publicity campaigns, and you had posters, you know, and you had educational campaigns, and you went into schools, and you had this time period where your film had a life. Now you have top 10, you know,
Right.
make that top 10 in that week, no matter how big your film is, no matter how many dollars you spend, no matter how many years it spent you to make that film, you have about 2 weeks of time.
I mean, it's,
you know,
and I think, so you made a very important part, is that like when you had a film like Freedom Song, you did the schools, and you had like this, because I'm looking at, you know, we filmed in 99, and then I'm looking at, you guys got awards all the way up until 2001. That's
it was a couple of years. Yeah, it was a couple of years we did with the
Right.
screenings, and yeah, we did. We had a life with it. And again, I really want to stress that I still have it. Thank God. I kept on my computer this massive educational campaign we did with it, you know, that we did run in schools, and they had those packets that they talked about the real people and the facts and the fiction, and, you know, was more about, you know, the civil rights movement, but a little about filmmaking, you know. And then I did some lectures here and there, and, you know, interviews that spoke to that, you know. But again, like you said, played out over a year and a half, 2 years, you know, whereas now you get, like I said, 2 weeks if you're lucky. You know?
But I mean, even as a person like me who was cast as a day player, who wasn't as large, and I was unknown, like according to the rest of the cast, even after coming back from filming, and then I did lectures at schools, like all of the neighborhood schools, like everywhere I grew up, everybody's like, hey, can we get her to come here? Can we get her to come and do this? Can we get her to come, you know? And it was like 2 or 3 years for me where it was literally, you know, that kind of momentum. And going into the schools, doing the lectures, even being at Shaw University, they literally formulated a class where I did like 3 or 4 lectures just as an actress, but it wasn't enough, because now I have become this person who's going to talk about, you know, everybody that was in the film. Like this was a film depicted from real lives, like the whole educational component of the civil rights movement. Even after playing Alice, you know, at the end of the film, they said, well, Alice goes on to train for SNCC and goes on, and, you know, she's in SNCC. So it was like, after that, I created this thing of, here is Alice now, and Alice is now at your school.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
And she's, you know, so how did Freedom Song come about for you?
Freedom Song came about for me through Phil Alden Robinson, who is the writer-director. And I'd become friends with Phil through a mutual friend, Deborah, who sadly is no longer with us. We had, you know, went to lunch or dinner or something, and he was developing the project as a feature at, I forget which studio, and it went into turnaround. I think we had done something else. We'd done Buffalo Soldiers. Yes, we'd done Buffalo Soldiers at TNT, and everybody loved it. And I love Freedom Song, but Buffalo Soldiers, because it's a Western, it's still my favorite film that I've produced so far. I love Buffalo Soldiers, and they loved us. And so they were like, well, what else you got, you know, next? And so I think I saw Phil, and I said, hey, what's going on with that project that, you know, you were developing for the studio? Or do you ever thought of, you know, doing it as for a TV movie? Because we have this thing at TNT now, and we've done some HBO. We won an Image Award for America's Dream at HBO. And I said, there's a couple places, you know, if you ever want to do it for TV, because back then, remember, talking of time, feature film and TV were
Yep.
completely different animals, you know, and nobody wanted to feature, didn't want to talk about TV or, you know, nobody, you know. So anyway, he said, you know, sure, you know, so I, you know, get on the phone with my execs at TNT and I said, hey, you know, Phil Alden Robinson, Field of Dreams, he was out nominated for an Oscar, The Sneakers, you know, he's got this script that's kind of, you know, in turnaround. And they said, bring it over. And Danny, of course, I got Danny to read it first. And I said, this is what this is, you know, and it's in turnaround. And, you know, Phil Robinson would do it at TNT would do it. If you will do it, you know, it's a thing.
Wow.
And so Danny said he would do it and it became a thing. That's what happened.
That's odd. So just like just knowing him from a mutual friend, having dinner, and then having worked with Danny, and that's how it all just kind of, you know.
Yeah, it was kind of in those timing to everything. There's a season and a time.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so you pretty much said like why you wanted to tell this story. You felt like it was a good script, but was it something specific about the story of the story?
I mean, it was about, you know, Freedom Summer and the civil rights movement and having, you know, again, growing up in North Carolina. And I remember at the time, and one of the executives from TNT, Andre Carey, you know, we were buddies. We had worked together at ICM back in New York and stuff. When we were on set, it was after shooting one night, we were walking the streets of Wilmington and we said to ourselves, you know, born in 1960, I know I'm dating myself, but we were talking about how we witnessed the actual events and flash forward 25, 30 years that we were able to make a film about this journey. We weren't, I'm getting chills. We weren't able to march, but we were able to share the stories and continue these stories of the march for people that, you know, even younger generations that didn't even have knowledge, especially now what's going on, you know, not wanting to tell those stories. At the time, I think it's very important. So we were kind of just in awe that we were just honored that we could do this, you know. Again, it was just, there's projects you do. I'd like to think everything I do has some kind of service element to it, you know, every creative work, whether it's, you know, film or short story or poem, has something that's a takeaway with it, some kind of theme that's going to elevate, edify, inspire, certainly educate. And this was it. This was like a no-brainer. This was like, oh yeah, thank God this fell in your lap, because yeah, this is what you were here to do. You're supposed to do this. This is your gig. This is your job on planet Earth, you know, when you get that opportunity.
Yeah, I've been sharing on my media like how I didn't want to work that summer. And I had to, being in theater program, we had to audition for stuff. So we had to do outside auditions, outside of program and outside of school. And I was just like, look, I'm gonna go and do this audition. I had no intentions on actually doing it for real.
Wow.
Like none. I had no intentions on even giving it an effort in the audition because I was exhausted from the semester. I was exhausted from the summers before. And I remember it was a group of us and we all went together. I was the only one that didn't want to do Freedom Song.
Wow. Even after you got there? And
well, no. So this is the thing. Like when I got there, I was quite a cantankerous student. Like I just gotta be honest. I was just like, I don't want to do this. We had a grueling tour season. It was just like, I don't want to do this. And they were like, well, we're going to go to the beach. So if you want to go to the beach, you got to come and audition. I was like, I just want to go to the beach. And they were like, well, no, you can't go to the beach unless you audition. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll audition. I didn't even dress for the audition. So all of the things that I did, I'm gonna tell you how it was just simply divine and it was placed for me to do, because I didn't even really comb my hair. I didn't do much of anything. I was like saying, I'm gonna do everything not to get this part.
Wow, isn't that interesting? But I remember you being very passionate though, even now to hear that story, that's very surprising, because that didn't come, I mean, you were present, you were just always, I'd look at dailies and it's like, Randy, you know, you were so present and passionate.
And I think it was like once I got it, I realized the weight of it on who was even cast. I knew that I knew that Danny was a part of it, but I didn't know who was cast.
Wow.
So when I get to the rehearsal, Vicelis walks in, and I was like, okay. Then Jason walks in, and I was like, wait. So I'm I'm freaking out, and I was like,
Instead, Shaw walks in.
right. I was like,
Glenn Turman walks in. Loretta
like-
Devine walks in.
So I go, oh, so this is like a real thing. Like I had no idea. And because, like I said, day players, you hear about the stars, you already knew I didn't have a scene with him. So I was like, Danny's just filming I won't see him ever. I had no idea. So when I talked to Phil was like, I knew I wanted you when you auditioned. He said, because you came in and you was like, look, I don't want to be here. I told him that. I was like, I just came because they said I could go to the beach. I had no idea that Phil, I'm thinking I'm talking to a script guy. Phil I didn't know anything about.
You didn't realize he was director.
So when I came out, the casting lady said, so how did you love doing lines with Phil, the director? I said, the who? Like, the who? I didn't know. And I was like, oh, I know I don't have it now. Because I was just so, but when we talked at the rehearsal, he was saying it was something about your honesty, that because Dora was the exact opposite of who I had presented. He was like, and I knew that you could play that. It was like
the energy in the other door. This is an aside, but that's actually kind of how I got my job working with Danny.
Stay tuned for part 2 of the story with the wonderful Carolyn McDonald. Now, you know it wouldn't be a story without a cliffhanger.